Yeah, it might give you like 5-10 G's, dude, but like what the as far as the pay scale, the UFC is the most fucked up. If you compare it to like pay versus athletes versus what they're making, it's not fair. It's predatory. There is no argument there. Now we're a bunch of fucking idiots who take our clothes off and go fight for fucking, shorten our lives for this. So like, do we deserve better? I don't fucking know. Does it change? No, it fucking doesn't change. You say no to a fight, well, guess what? They're gonna go find some fucking guy in some fucking sand pit. They'll do it for fucking 5 and 5.
If the fighters come together, they can make anything happen. The fighters don't understand the level of power that they carry because they think, oh, since they cutting the check, they got the power.
Right.
But they can't cut the check without us.
It's just upsetting, to be fair. It's disappointing more than anything. And that's probably all I'll say on that.
Every UFC fighter is probably thinking the same right now. This might be the biggest problem Dana White has created for himself without even realizing it.
I know exactly what we do and who we are, and how we treat people and how we pay them. So, I think you're going to hear a lot more of that as guys start to come in and realize how this place is run and how we treat our athletes.
Dana White runs both the UFC and Zuffa Boxing. Same boss, same parent company in TKO Group, but completely different worlds when it comes to how fighters get paid. Conor Benn is a British welterweight boxer with a 23-0 record who hasn't fought anyone truly elite recently and has been dealing with controversy. He signs one fight with Zuffa Boxing and gets $15 million guaranteed. The numbers tell an even crazier story when you dig deeper. Sean Strickland, who just won at UFC Houston and has been a champion, has made around $8 million in his entire UFC career across all his fights combined. That's his total career earnings. Conor Benn is getting almost double that for one night. Justin Gaethje has won 14 performance bonuses in the UFC, which is absolutely insane, and he's been vocal about how the pay structure still isn't fair compared to what the promotion makes.
Oh man, to have 14 bonuses and not equal up to $1 million, it's not right. It's not right. It should be a lot more than that, and I should have had opportunities to do smarter things with my money, but I don't, and I haven't. And to this day, everyone's, I hear Daniel Cormier saying that everybody's going to get paid more on this card. I'm not getting $1 more than I would have if this deal did not happen. I'm happy to have achieved what I have achieved. The best thing I did is probably invest in a commercial property. I purchased a house in Arizona that's like a mile away from my parents. My sister is renting that from me now. But really just being able to help my family. Help my parents, help my brothers and sisters, give them Christmas gifts that I never would have been able to give them, take them on vacations that I would have never been able to. That's the smartest thing I did, because you can never get that time back with your family. And so, it's huge for me.
These are top-tier UFC fighters, guys who headline cards and bring in viewers, and they're watching Dana White hand a boxer they've never heard of more money than they've made in years. This goes back to how differently boxing and MMA handle fighter pay, especially now with Saudi money involved. Zuffa Boxing is backed by Turki Al-Sheikh and his unlimited Riyadh season funding. They're offering guaranteed purses with no pay-per-view splits, no win bonuses, just straight cash. Conor Benn gets $15 million whether he wins or loses. That's the deal. In the UFC, fighters work on show money and win bonuses. O'Malley might get $500,000 to show and $500,000 to win, so if he loses, he only gets half. Then there's pay-per-view points for the biggest stars, but those are only available to a handful of fighters, and the details are always secret. The UFC did increase bonuses in 2026 when the Paramount deal kicked in. Performance of the Night and Fight of the Night bonuses doubled to $100,000, and they added a new $25,000 finish bonus for anyone who gets a knockout or submission.
The low-hanging fruit that's easy to answer, bonuses are obviously going up. So, that'll be big. And forget about the tide rising with all the other fighters. I mean, just the number that the bonuses bring to a fighter is, that's millions of dollars.
Yeah.
That sounds good on paper, but when you compare a $100,000 bonus to a $15 million guarantee, it feels like a joke. Dana White could theoretically structure UFC deals differently. He could offer guaranteed purses like Zuffa Boxing does. He could give fighters equity or revenue sharing like other sports. But he doesn't, because the UFC business model is built on keeping fighter pay as a relatively small percentage of revenue. The antitrust lawsuit that got settled in 2025 exposed a lot of this. The case covered fighters from 2010 to 2017 and alleged the UFC suppressed wages by using restrictive contracts and market dominance to prevent fighters from negotiating fairly. The settlement paid out $375 million to over 1,100 fighters, with some guys getting life-changing money. But it didn't force any structural changes to how the UFC pays fighters going forward. No revenue sharing requirements, no minimum guarantees, no union. Just a one-time payment for past wrongs. What's happening now in early 2026 is you're seeing the frustration build again because fighters thought the Paramount broadcast deal would change things. The UFC got $7.7 billion for broadcast rights, which is massive money. Fighters assumed some of that would trickle down to them in meaningful ways. Instead, they got doubled bonuses, and that's about it. Meanwhile, they're watching Dana White launch Zuffa Boxing with Saudi money and immediately start handing out $15 million purses to boxers who aren't as famous as UFC stars. Eddie Hearn, the Matchroom boxing promoter who lost Conor Benn to Zuffa, even said UFC fighters must be feeling sick watching this. He called it out specifically. Here's a boxer leaving traditional boxing for better money, while UFC fighters can't leave for better money because there's nowhere to go that pays more. The UFC has such dominance in MMA that fighters don't have leverage. You can't threaten to go to Bellator or PFL for a bigger payday because those promotions can't compete with UFC exposure and pay for most fighters. This could become a real morale problem for the UFC if it continues. When someone like Sean O'Malley, who's usually pretty positive and focused on his own success, publicly says he's frustrated about the pay gap, that resonates with other fighters. And if enough stars start pushing back or threatening to explore options when their contracts end, the UFC might have to adjust.